How did you come up with the business model for Netflix? This is way, way, way before subscriptions. We're now just inundated with subscriptions, but you started doing the subscription model when it's sort of an unheard of time. Why did you do that?
Yeah, I'm actually reasonably proud of that. I mean, certainly Netflix is kind of probably best known. We changed the way movies are made and movies, entertainment's consumed. But the subscription thing was pretty big because you're right. At the time, subscriptions was for the most part magazines and record and tape clubs, book of the month club. But video rental subscription, what the hell is that? It's also perhaps the biggest, I won't call it a mistake, missed opportunity on my part. So I mentioned before that my whole prior career before the internet came along was as a direct marketing guy. And I said, we did catalogs, I did direct response TV, did a lot of direct mail, did magazine circulation, which is subscription. And I owned 2 magazines where I was a subscription wizard, if I can get modest about it. And the subscription at Netflix GB happened for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years after we started. And in retrospect, I go, and that was what ended up working. And in retrospect, I go, how can I have missed that? That's where it came from, was it? I knew about how to make that work. And so we were kind of getting to the end of our rope, and Reed and I were debating what else can we do to try and make.
Funding-wise, you're running out of money, hard to raise at that time.
Yeah, and just having tried so many things to try and make this economically work. And that one of those last ideas we had was basically, can we make it a subscription program? And, I won't get geeky about it, but there's a concept called negative option, which is basically get first month free, but if I don't hear from you, I'm just going to bill you for the second month.
That wasn't being done before.
Well, it was done in the magazine business all the time.
Yeah.
But
not in software.
Not in software.
Yeah.
And so I had to really do a lot of convincing. Plus all the other economic calculations that what subscription opened up. And now, of course, SaaS is so everywhere that it's obvious to them. But the whole concept of spending more to acquire a customer than they give you up front, that's the most economically boneheaded thing I can imagine. Look at this. You're going to get $19.95 from them in the first month, but you're going to spend $50 to acquire them? What the hell? But subscription empowers that. Once you begin to gain confidence in your retention, and once
your average revenue per user makes that a no-brainer.
Yeah, and not just a no-brainer, a mathematically defensible no-brainer. Here's what the retention curves look like. Here's what the lifetime value calculations look like. Here's what the margins on that lifetime value look like. What world wouldn't I want to spend $50 for someone who's going to generate $250 in the first year?
Yeah.
And that powers huge amounts of capital investment, of acceleration. It was an extremely powerful thing. But of course, because it was alien to most people, having someone who had come from that world at the intersection of internet and mail order and magazine circulation, we made it work. And I think Netflix and probably Salesforce, probably 2 of the biggest innovators in how you make that happen.
I sort of see it as like a 1-2 punch, and it's like great startups or ideas that get to market and are well executed. It can kind of stun an incumbent. It kind of, like you said, like with Blockbuster, they had all these other things that made it so that's not, we're not worried about that. But after a while, you get big enough that it's like you have to start taking notice. They don't really knock it out. But then if a company can come with a different business model to this old solving this old problem, it's for them to totally reinvent their business model is almost preposterous, because you have to completely abandon what you have, and you have this really great thing. And you see so many businesses try to do this, and they try to pivot into this new thing, and very, very few are able to do the hey, I've innovated on the idea and I'm completely disrupting myself with the business model. And you've said this, if you are unwilling to disrupt yourself, there will always be someone willing to disrupt your business for you. And it feels like that sort of 1-2 of great idea executed well, and then totally changing the business model is like the ultimate disruption.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is this combination of short-term tactical execution paired with clever long-term vision. You've got to be building towards something. It's hard enough to get there, so you better spend most of your time on what's right in front of you. But you've got to be saying, are we building something which is ultimately going to allow us to defeat the existing manner of how people are consuming this good or service? And you're right, we looked at Blockbuster, and our initial strategy of getting in, pretty solid. We knew we had a few years, but we knew eventually they'd respond. And so you had to really say, what are we doing that we're of a very, very hard time responding to? And you begin looking at things like, what's their dependence on late fees? Very high. What's their dependence on the small percentage of their customers who are high consumers? And you don't need to take away half their customers to tip a Blockbuster single store out of economic balance. You just got to take away the top 7 or 8%.
Wow.
When all of a sudden that store is unprofitable. So it's on a much shakier foundation than it may seem once you really understand what you're going for. And you say, I've got to aim for those weak spots. And large companies aren't stupid. They're run by extremely smart people. And you've got to aim not for things they won't think about. You've got to aim for things that are extremely difficult for them to change. I mean, a classic one's like, when Burger King was going after McDonald's, they did broiling versus frying, because every single McDonald's fried their hamburgers, and so Burger King's putting in broilers, which taste better. That's really hard to compete with. And that's a stupid example. I did it's not a car agent. I was working with a company, big manufacturer, manufactured a product that was sold through multi-tier. This company sold to distributors sold to stores sold to consumers. So of course the price gets knocked up each step. Great product, dominates the market. A smaller company comes along, creates a product similar, not as good, but close, but sells direct. So it's about half the price. And the CEO of this big company goes, oh, not a big deal. We can knock them out immediately.